Today we delve into the shadowed corridors of the unknown, where inanimate objects hold the echoes of the past, whispering secrets meant only for the bravest of hearts. Join us as we explore a chilling collection of creepypasta stories centered around an object as innocent as it is terrifying, haunted dolls. Each tale is a journey through time and memory, where the veil between the living and the spectral is as thin as porcelain. These dolls, with eyes that see into your soul, bring messages from beyond and mysteries wrapped in the silken threads of nightmares. So sit back, dim the lights, and prepare to be ensnared by the haunting melodies of these haunted doll stories. Whether skeptic or believer, you're about to enter a world where the boundaries of reality blur, and every creak in the night whispers of ancient secrets longing to be heard.
Story 1: Whispers of the Forgotten. In the dim corners of an old antique shop, nestled between stacks of dusty books and aged furniture, I stumbled upon a peculiar sight. Two dolls, their gazes piercing through the gloom, seemed to beckon me closer. The shopkeeper, a frail man with a network of wrinkles mapping his face, told me they were unique, one possibly harboring a restless spirit. My skepticism laughed off the notion, yet curiosity twisted my arm into the purchase. I placed the dolls atop my bookshelf, an odd addition to my collection of curiosities. The days that followed were uneventful until one nightmarish evening shifted my reality. I returned home, late from work, the house swallowed by shadows. My partner, pale-faced and wide-eyed, gestured silently towards the bookshelf. One doll, which I had affectionately named Miriam, was turned away, her porcelain face gazing out the window, contrary to how I had positioned them. We joked about it, attributing the movement to the tremors that occasionally shook our city. Yet the other doll remained untouched, its posture unchanged. We straightened Miriam, trying to brush off an unsettling feeling creeping up our spines. Not 10 minutes had passed when our quiet was shattered by the shrill cry of the smoke detector. Our home, a sanctuary for years, had never echoed such a distressing sound. The detector's voice, unnaturally clear, screamed warnings of smoke where there was none. We checked every corner, every shadow, but found nothing amiss. The alarm ceased as suddenly as it had begun, plunging us back into an uneasy silence. That night, sleep eluded me. My thoughts raced, looping back to the dolls and the day's eerie occurrences. As the clock ticked past 3 a.m., a chilling realization washed over me. Since the doll's arrival, my nights had been plagued by insomnia and nightmares of a vivid, visceral nature. My temper frayed more easily, my patience thinner than ever before. I opened my eyes to the dark, pressing silence, a sense of being watched, prickling at my neck. The air felt heavy, charged with an unseen presence. I turned towards the bookshelf, my heart pounding in my chest. Miriam's silhouette was barely discernible in the moonlight, her position unchanged since we last corrected it. Yet the air around her seemed to tremble, a whisper of movement in the stillness of the night. The following days brought more unexplained phenomena. Objects moved of their own accord, shadows flickered at the edge of my vision, and an oppressive atmosphere settled over our home. The smoke detector's voice became a harbinger of dread, activating at the witching hour with dire warnings of unseen dangers. Desperate for answers, I scoured ancient texts and online forums, each search ending in more questions than before. It became clear. The doll was not just an object, but a vessel, a conduit for something ancient and malevolent. As I delved deeper into the lore surrounding haunted artifacts, I realized our home had become a battleground for unseen forces drawn to the doll's silent call. Tonight, I write this account as a warning. The dolls sit wrapped in a shroud of salt and sage, awaiting a new dawn when I can rid ourselves of their curse. But the shadows linger, whispers of the forgotten brushing against the edges of my sanity. Our lives have been forever altered by the uninvited guest within Miriam's porcelain frame, a testament to the thin veil that separates our world from the one that whispers in the dark. Story 2: Dolls of the Damned. I never believed in haunted objects or ghost stories. That skepticism was a part of my identity, a shield against the unknown and the unexplained. But that changed when I inherited my grandmother's old house in the countryside, along with all its contents, including a peculiar collection of dolls she had amassed over the decades. Each doll was unique, collected from different corners of the world, each with its own story, as she used to say. I found them unsettling, their glassy eyes seeming to follow me around the room, but I attributed this discomfort to the stress of the move and the loss of my grandmother. I decided to keep the dolls displayed on a shelf in the living room, thinking it a fitting tribute to her memory. That's when the disturbances began. It started subtly, a faint whispering at night, so soft I thought it was the wind or the creaking of the old house settling. Then, the temperature in the room where the dolls were kept would fluctuate, growing cold suddenly, even on warm nights. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day of unpacking, I settled into bed, the events of the day swirling in my mind, when the whispering started again. This time, it was louder, more insistent. I rose, a mixture of irritation and curiosity propelling me toward the living room. The air grew colder as I approached, and I could see my breath in the moonlit room. The dolls sat on their shelf, silent sentinels in the night, but one doll, a small porcelain girl dressed in Victorian attire, had turned her head to face me directly. My heart raced. I was certain I had placed her looking straight ahead. I reached out, hesitating before adjusting her position, and that's when I heard it. A clear, unmistakable giggle, a child's giggle, coming from the shelf. I recoiled, stumbling backward, my eyes scanning the dolls for any other signs of movement. But there was nothing, just the echo of laughter fading into the stillness of the house. The next days were marked by an escalating series of events. Objects would move on their own, always in the room with the dolls. I would wake to find the dolls in different positions, sometimes even in different rooms. I was losing sleep, my mind grappling with the impossibility of what I was experiencing. Determined to find an explanation, I began researching the history of the dolls. I discovered that the Victorian doll, the one that giggled that night, was made in the image of a young girl who had died tragically in the late 1800s. Her father, a toy maker, had crafted the doll in her memory, pouring all his grief and love into its creation. It was said that he believed his daughter's spirit lived on within the doll, a comforting notion to a grieving parent, but one I found deeply unsettling. As I delved deeper, I learned that many of the dolls in my grandmother's collection had similar stories, each linked to a lost soul, a life cut short, a spirit perhaps clinging to the only vessel it knew. I couldn't explain it, nor could I dismiss the evidence of my own senses. The whispers, the laughter, the movements, they were all too real. too frequent to ignore. I was faced with a choice: live in fear and denial, or accept the inexplicable as part of the world, a world where love and loss transcend the boundaries of life and death. With a heavy heart, I packed the dolls carefully, each in its own box, and donated them to a museum dedicated to paranormal artifacts, hoping they would be respected, perhaps even understood in a way I couldn't manage. The house is quiet now, the whispering and giggles gone with the dolls. Yet sometimes, in the dead of night, I swear, I can hear a faint whispering, a reminder of the mysteries that lie just beyond our understanding. Story 3: The Forgotten Melody. In a quaint little town veiled in mist and forgotten by time, I stumbled upon a peculiar antique shop nestled at the end of a cobblestone alley. Its windows were clouded with age, yet something within called to me, a whisper in the wind that spoke of hidden treasures and secrets untold. The shop, whispering antiquities, was cluttered with relics of the past, each piece echoing stories of yesteryears. But among the myriad of forgotten tales, one object beckoned me closer: a delicate, handcrafted music box adorned with intricate carvings of dancing figures under the moonlight. The shopkeeper, an elderly man with eyes as deep as the mysteries he kept, noticed my fascination. "It chooses those who can hear its true melody," he whispered, a cryptic smile playing on his lips. Intrigued and unable to resist its allure, I purchased the music box, unaware that I was bringing home more than just an artifact. That night, as the clock struck midnight, the music box sprung to life on its own, filling the room with a haunting melody that seemed to seep into the very walls of my home. The tune, while beautiful, carried a sorrow so profound that it felt as though the room was mourning lost souls. Sleep became a distant memory, as every night the melody played, louder and more insistent. Driven by a desperate need to understand, I researched the music box's origin and discovered it was crafted in Willowdale, a town swallowed by a tragic event centuries ago, erased from every map, its people forgotten by time. Legend had it that the music box was a final tribute by a father who lost his daughter to the plague, her soul believed to be bound to the box, forever replaying the last melody she ever danced to. Realization dawned on me with a chilling clarity. The music box was not just an artifact. It was a vessel of perpetual grief and loss, a reminder of the fragile line between life and the eternity that follows. The melody was not just a tune, but a lament, a call to the daughter's spirit that wandered, lost, and unable to find peace. Determined to end the cycle of sorrow, I returned to the antique shop, only to find it had vanished as if it had never existed, leaving behind an empty lot overgrown with weeds. Desperate, I traveled to where Willowdale once stood, guided by the moonlight and the haunting melody that seemed to lead the way. In the heart of the forest, where the mist hung heavy, I found the remnants of Willowdale, and there, under the light of the full moon, I played the music box one last time. The melody rose, a crescendo of hope and release, and as the final note played, the spirit of the girl appeared, dancing one last time before fading into the night, her laughter a gentle echo in the wind. The music box fell silent, its purpose fulfilled. I left Willowdale with a heavy heart, carrying the weight of a centuries-old sorrow that had finally found its end. The melody still lingers in my dreams, a bittersweet reminder of the power of love and the eternal quest for peace beyond the veil.